Member for Abbotsford West.
Thanks, Mr. Speaker. The confidential memo that the Leader of the Opposition referred to, and the Premier did everything he could to ignore, is dated November 20th, 1 week ago today. The memo makes it clear that the government sees itself as having a choice between, on the one hand, respecting the independent jurisdictional authority of the BCUC, or providing a direction to overrule that authority and to actually raise rates that British Columbia families would be paying to create a slush fund that could be funneled into the Premier's politically appointed task force. The memo says the following, quote, under a directed scenario, flexibility around allowable net income could fund task force initiatives. The question for the Premier, is he planning to overrule the BCUC and use BC Hydro to funnel funds into his politicized task force?
Premier.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Our record on BC Hydro speaks for itself. It's very obvious what the other side's record was when they were on this side. They directed BC Hydro through their independent power producers program to buy hydro we didn't need at times of the year when we didn't need it, increasing hydro rates for British Columbians by 80%. Honourable Speaker.
Members, take it easy. Members.
BC Hydro was forced to sell that power at a loss, and guess who paid for it, Honourable Speaker? Every single BC ratepayer. That's why, when we changed that program, Honourable Speaker, BC Hydro rates, that's right, we cancelled it. BC Hydro rates are 15.6% lower than inflation and 12% lower than the rates that, if those guys were on this side of the House, British Columbians would be paying 12.6% higher hydro rates because that is how they ran the province, for their donors and friends. And if they get back over here, they'll do it again.
Member for Abbotsford West, supplemental.
Thanks, Honourable Speaker. Electricity we didn't need from the party that opposed Site C, from the party that opposed independent power, who today are confronted by their own documentation saying we don't have enough electricity in British Columbia. Wow. Look, I know the Premier doesn't want to answer the question. It's a specific question. It relates to a choice that he and his government have acknowledged exists. He set up a task force, a very political task force, and he's now confronted by having to either respect the independent jurisdictional authority of the BCUC or overruling that via direction to funnel funds into what would in effect be a political slush fund, Mr. Speaker. And the question for the Premier today, he was all too anxious to stand up and answer for the Minister last week when we were confronted by these documents. Is he going to overrule the BCUC? And is he going to create a slush fund, or is he going to do the right thing and respect ratepayers in British Columbia and respect the BCUC?
Premier.
Honourable Speaker, it is very difficult to listen to a member on the other side that was part of the government that forced through IPP projects, so BC Hydro sold hydro at a loss, which was paid for by families across the province, and then they took big donations to fund their party. Over and over and over again, they repeated that pattern. Now, we got the big money out of politics.
Members, please continue.
Well, British Columbians got the BC Liberals out of government. And then we got the big money out of politics, and the results are in. BC Hydro rates are 12.4% lower than that government's 10-year rate plans. If they were still in government, the average family would be paying $140 more a year in BC Hydro. So this member can make up whatever
Members.
nonsense he wishes, but the reality for families is $140 in savings, and we're going to do more, Honourable Speaker.